Hello, today we are reviewing point-slope form. So previously we reviewed slope-intercept form, this one down here. But now today we are going to do point-slope form and then solve to get slope-intercept form. So remember point-slope form, we use a point, x1, y1, and our slope is m. Our black x we have there and the y there are just the letters x and y. You just leave them exactly how they are. So I'm going to start writing this, y minus y1, and here's our point, x1, y1. So we have a negative 9. That makes a positive. Equal to m, our slope, which is 2. And then in parentheses, x minus x1, which is a negative 4. Again, making a positive. So now we just need to solve this to get y all by itself. So we're going to distribute 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 4 is 8. Remember, we're multiplying. And over here we have y plus 9. And we want y all by itself, so we just need to subtract 9 on both sides. So we have y all by itself. Y equals 2x minus 1. There is our equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So this graph, we're beginning not at 1, at negative 1. If it helps you to identify m and b, our slope is 2, or as a fraction 2 over 1, and b is negative 1. We're beginning on our y-axis at negative 1, and our slope, rise 2, run 1, rise over run, up 2, 1 to the right, and the opposite way, down 2, 1 to the left. And draw your line through it. We have graphed the point negative 4, negative 9, and it goes through the slope, or it has a slope of 2. Graph that equation. We're going to try another one exactly like this. We have our point slope form, y minus y1 equals our slope, x minus x1. And we need to plug in our information. Here's x1 and y1. So we have y minus 0 equals our m, our slope is negative 1, and then x minus x1, which is 2. So we just need to solve this. So draw your line down. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. But we need to distribute first. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. A negative times a negative is a positive 2. And then we have y minus 0. We don't really need the minus 0, so we just have y equals, oopsies, negative 1x plus 2, which, I don't know why I wrote that again, is y equals mx plus b. So we're beginning at 2 on our y-axis, and our slope, if we make it a fraction, negative 1 over 1, meaning down 1, and 1 to the right. If you're confused as to whether or not your slope is negative, like it says it's supposed to be, think about walking downhill here. If you're walking from left to right, are you going downhill? We can also do the opposite and go up and left to continue our pattern. And there is our equation. That's the line y equals negative 1x plus 2. Flip over to the back side. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging. We don't have a point, or we have 2 points. We don't have a slope. So remember, to find our slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to label my points, xy first point, xy second point, and I'm going to plug them into my slope formula down here. y2 is negative 8 minus y1, which is negative 2. That makes a positive. And then x2 minus x1, 4 minus a negative 2, again making a positive. So we have negative 6, and then 4 plus 2 is also 6. 6 divided by 6 is really just 1. So our slope, or m, is negative 1. If you want to leave it as a fraction, you can, but when we're putting it into an equation, it helps to have it as not a fraction. So we have our formula, point slope form, and plug in what we know. Y minus, I'm going to use this point, a negative 2. That makes a positive. Our slope is negative 1. And then we have x minus, again, a negative 2, making a positive. And distributing, this is the same thing over and over and over again. Negative 1x. Negative 1 times 2 is now negative 2. And then subtract 2 on each side because we want y all by itself. We have negative 1x. Be careful with the second half. Negative 2 and negative 2 is a total of negative 4. So here is our equation that we need to graph. We are beginning on our y-axis at negative 4. And our slope is negative 1 over 1. Down 1, 1 to the right. Or up 1 and 1 to the left. There we go. We have a couple questions left, but our equations are already graphed for us. It says use the information to write an equation in point-slope form. So it's going to be in this form. Convert to slope-intercept form. So then we're going to have to solve it for y. So our point, doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick this one because they're both positives, 4, 1. And our slope, if we count, rise 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 4 over 1 is just 4. So we have a point and a slope. Let's plug them into our equation. Y minus 1 equals our slope 4, and then x minus x1, which is also 4. And it says convert to slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So we need to solve for y. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. What's going on here? There we go. And then add 1 to both sides. Y equals 4x. Negative 16 plus 1, there's still way more negatives, negative 15. Which makes sense, because if this graph were to continue, if our y-axis continued, this line would cross way down here at negative 15. Oops. Then we're going to do our very last question. I want you to try this one on your own and click play to see if you got it right. I'm going to use our point 3, 2. You can use the other point. You will still get the same answer. And then I'm going to count our slope from one point to the next. Rise over run, rise 2. And run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So plugging in what we know into our point slope form, y minus y1 equals our slope, x minus x1. I'm just using this formula down here. And then we're going to distribute and multiply. 2/5 times x is 2/5 x. 2/5 times negative 3. Negative 3 is 3 over 1. So it's really negative 6/5. Or, since that's not our slope, I'm just going to plug it into our calculator. Negative 6 divided by 5 is negative 1.2. And then add 2 to both sides. Our equation is y equals 2/5 x. There's going to be more positives. Should be plus 0.8, which makes sense because we're not quite at 1 yet. We're a little bit less at our y-intercept. All right, your homework is graphing. This is not the title of it.